Welcome back to the fourth and final part of my Construct Devlog series. I'm doing a game a month challenge, and this is the very first game in the first month that I've been doing this. So it has been exactly 1 month, and in fact, if you look, we are in the very early hours of the first day of June. So I spent all of May working on this game. I started it May 1st, finished it just a few hours ago. And when I say finished, I'll get into that. But I spent this week just kind of putting some finishing touches, getting in some features that I wanted to get in there. First big thing is we've got a main menu and a logo. I made this in Photoshop. I just kind of used some gradients and a little bit of cracking stuff going on. I've never made a logo before, so that was a learning experience. And I threw this main menu together today, actually, so that's why it does not look great. But I told myself I wasn't going to make excuses. I had a month, and so this is what I got. As you can see, the main menu, this is what you see when you start up the game, and it basically allows you to pick a summoner, which I did not have working last time. So you can actually be red now, and you're not forced to be blue. The other thing you might notice is that we have a full set of new icons for both players here. So let's just take a look at the extra constructs that I made. So you guys, if you've seen the previous videos, you should be familiar with these top three on both sides. We've just got the Ravager, Wraith, and Guardian. The last slot here is a spell. So the icons look the same, just a different color. They do actually do different things, but they function very similarly. So that's not a construct. I'll show you guys that later. So mainly what I did is I created 4 new constructs, 2 for blue and then 2 for red. So I wanted to focus a little more on the constructs themselves here in Blender. That was another challenge of mine, was making all of these things in Blender, where I had very little Blender experience before this. So this was really an exercise to get better at Blender, which I'm definitely more comfortable here, so I think that's definitely a good thing. This guy, his name is the Bubbler, and he's obviously on the blue side. He's basically just kind of like a little torpedo thing that has some bubbles underneath of him that he kind of glides along the ground and shoots himself at things. So that was the thought here. Also, in the process of modeling these, I figured out that I could make my own emission maps. I think I talked about this in either the first or the second devlog. It was that custom shader that I made using Shader Graph. Turns out that was completely unnecessary. It was kind of cool, and it helped me learn Shader Graph a bit more. But yeah, totally did not need to do that. All I had to do was make those spots white, and then turn them into an emission map, and then I could change the color that way. But it works, and I think that's the most important thing with the game. But the good news is, with these models moving forward, I did figure out how to make my own emission maps, and so that actually works really, really well, and it gives it a bit of glow. You can't really see it here that much, but you can see it in game. So each construct has 5 animations, and I just set it up that way to so they fit a standard, and I can minimize the amount of work I have to put in each individual one. So for this one, I've got just an idle pose. You can see here, this one over on the left side is the actual like render view, so that's more accurate to what it looks like. On the right side here, you can kind of see the armature working a little more. So this is the Bubbler. You can see the bubbles kind of scaling up and down there, and he just kind of bobs back and forth. I thought that was kind of a nice effect. The run is pretty much the exact same thing as the idle animation, just because he floats along the ground, so it's kind of the same thing. The attack animation is a little bit different. This one was kind of weird because I didn't know how to best demonstrate him attacking. So he just kind of launches himself, and that's what this looks like. I speed it up a bit in game, but you can see that he just launches, the bubbles kind of go away, and then he returns to position. And then we've got a spawn animation, which he shoots up from the ground, lands, and then a death animation for when he gets killed. This is the final construct that I made for the blue team. This is the Crusher, and I had quite a bit of fun making this one. I felt like I kind of sort of figured out what I was going for a lot easier with this one, and it just kind of worked. So let's check out the animations here. I'll just go over the idle and the attack poses, because the rest of them I don't think are as fun. So this is the idle pose, pretty basic. And then here is the attack pose. You can see he lifts up his leg, throws his arms in the air, and then smashes down. Next up we have the Molter, which is the first new construct for the fire team, and you can't really see him because he has a blob right there in front of his face. But if we go to the idle pose, you can actually see what this one is supposed to look like. And this is just a blob of fire, lava. If I play the idle animation, I think you can see what he's all about a little bit better. Just very blobby and moves around like that. In fact, his run animation is pretty much the same thing, just leaning forward. But it kind of produces a fun little run movement. And then that glob is his attack. So let me extend this out a bit, and you can see he just lobs a little ball of magma at people. So that works pretty well, I think, and I think I speed this up a little bit in game 2. Last and certainly not least, this is the Strider, obviously for the red side. And I actually had a comment on one of my last videos asking if I could go into more detail on how I make these characters. So in a future video, hopefully coming in the next week or two, I will be breaking down how I created this. I actually filmed the process of making it from start to finish, so I will make a little video out of that in between the next game's devlogs. So as you can see, he kind of floats as well. I tried making legs and stuff for him, but it just did not look very good. I couldn't get it to work, and floating is a little bit less work, so I wasn't going to complain about that. This is the attack animation, similar to the Crusher, brings it up over his head, and then just lobs it on down. I'm going to go ahead and get the game playing here. So as you can see, you can pick which one you want to be here. Let's start out with Zaid. Click on him, and then I added a little bit of tutorial text here, just because I knew there would probably be some people playing this game that aren't watching the video, so it might not be intuitive to drag these things out there. They might try to just click on it, and then that doesn't work as well. So I just included a little, basically just a static image here that tells you to click on a construct and drag it out there. So if I do that for the first time, that will go away and you can just start playing the game. You'll also notice that the enemy AI is better and spawning more than just Ravagers. I'm going to start over real quick just so I don't die super fast, because I did finally put an ending in there. It's basically just an end screen that says who the winner was, but I think that's fine for what this is supposed to be. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of a match going here. This spell is something that I wanted to put some focus on. So if I drag it up here and put it out there, you can see that it just creates this nice little glowing vortex. And if I do that, it slows down the movement of anything that comes into contact with it, and that includes attack speed. So it's a good way to sort of slow down the fight, and if you're getting overwhelmed, you can slow the damage down, and it kind of allows you to get the momentum back up. Here, I'll put a Crusher out there because those ones are fun. The Crushers are quite a bit stronger. I think one of the things I needed the most and didn't get in there, aside from sound, I really wanted sound in there, and that just did not, I didn't have enough time to do any of that. But I think a description of each of these and kind of what they do, because they do have different stats and they do function, I mean, they all function the same, like they all move and attack. These bubblers here, the energy cost is really low and they're pretty squishy, like they die fast, and I just lost, so I can return to main menu and go back in. But the bubblers are pretty fast, they don't have hardly any HP, but they're good for just getting out there really fast because of their low cost, and they can kind of team up on things. I found that they're a good supplement, so like throw a Ravager or a Guardian out there to take the brunt of the attack, and then throw out a bunch of these bubblers around it, and they'll take things down pretty quickly. And then these Crushers are just, they're big, they're slow, have a ton of HP, and deal a decent amount of damage, but they cost 4, so I wish I could have gotten more information about these things written up in order to help players figure out what they need, because right now you kind of just have to click through them and figure out what they do, and even then it's not super intuitive. So if I had more time, I'd definitely add more in that area. Okay, so let's pop over to the red side. So this is something we haven't been able to do, and that's what I spent the bulk of the week this week doing, was getting it so you could choose and flip between the different summoners. So if I click on Dane here, you can see that my side is now completely red and the enemy is now blue, and I can summon these creatures. Everything should work out normally. The crystals change color, all the UI changes color. I think it works out pretty good. So the Ravager, Wraith, and Guardian are the same no matter what color you are. They just show different colors. The Molters are similar to the Bubblers in that they are low cost and quick to get out, but they are quite a bit slower and deal a little bit more damage than the Bubblers do. But it's good to use them in a similar way. The spell for red is Ignite. It looks the same, but the blue one freezes and slows things down. This one just deals damage. So anything that's in contact with the circle will take some damage over time. It's good to use in the similar situations, like where you have a ton of enemies attacking you. And then of course we've got the Strider, which has kind of a fun spawn animation. It comes up and then grabs its sword out of the ground. So if you can watch it up here. Thought that was kind of fun. I wanted to have it slower, but some weird things started happening when it was slower, and it's just no fun to have your constructs take forever to actually get going and stuff like that. So I decided to speed it up a little bit. Doesn't look as good, but functions better. I think the other big news for things that I added this week was the enemy AI. It's still not the most complicated AI, and it's pretty easy to devise a solution to beat it. I think when you initially start playing this, it is pretty difficult to beat him. But then once you've played for just a little bit and kind of figured out a good combination to do with your constructs, it becomes pretty easy to beat him. Like I said, it's not the best and most balanced AI, but it's definitely a lot better than just spawning Ravagers in random locations. So he has 3 different states. There's kind of just a default state where they'll just start throwing out constructs to see what happens. And then I have a defensive state and an aggressive state. So right now he's about to enter the defensive state, and you can see that's usually like the spell popping up. That's a sign that he's in the defensive state, because he is being overrun right now. And there's a couple ways that he can go into that. If his life is quite a bit lower than yours, he will enter the defensive state. And if he's surrounded by 4 or more constructs, he will also enter the defensive state. And what they do there is pretty much just spawn all the constructs a lot closer so they can attack my constructs that are attacking him. And he'll focus on some of the more attack heavy constructs to deal with the stuff that's attacking him and push back to my side. As you can see, he's done here. Then there's also aggressive, which he might be entering aggressive right now. That's when his things are a lot more on my side and there's nothing really attacking him. And he actually saves up a bit of energy so he can have a little boost when he enters this aggressive state. And he just spawns things closer to us, closer to our side of the field, so they get here quicker. And I'm about to lose. Enemy wins. There we go. So, like I said, it's not the craziest AI in the world, but I think it's actually pretty fun, and being able to identify the different states that it's in is pretty cool, and it just kind of varies up gameplay a little bit. Well, this is it. I spent the month working on this game, and there was kind of a mad dash in the end here to get things finished, because, like I said, I've never really exported a game before for other people to play, and definitely never done that in Unity. So that was a bit of a learning experience. Unity makes it pretty easy. But there was also some other things like aspect ratio that I knew would be a problem because everyone's monitors are different sizes. Making sure that no matter what kind of display you have, it should work. It doesn't work vertically, but any sort of horizontal display, it should look all right. Basically, the UI will always look fine. It zooms out a bit, so it might be a little small depending on your display. But the big problem was that it would cut out the crystals in the summoners, and if it, in extreme cases, it would get rid of some of the battlefield, and that's just not good. So I basically have it in there. It tries to identify the closest aspect ratio and then pulls the camera back. So that can obviously be used to see more than you're supposed to, but I think it covers most of what people will have out there. And then I knew I wanted to release it so you guys could see it. It's obviously going to be free because it's not a throwaway game, but a game a month, so it's obviously not polished. And it's very lacking on content, and I just won, so that's a good sign. So it's not a full game, so I'm not charging for it or anything like that, but I did want to put it out there so you guys can play it. Right now it's looking like I'm going to put it on itch.io and one other, I can't remember, but the links will be down in the description, so you can go download it. It will just be a Windows executable file. So nothing fancy there. I have tested it. I downloaded it and had my wife pull it up on her computer over there, and I had to fix a few things after the first time, but with all the bugs worked out, it did actually run and run like it's supposed to. So hopefully that continues to be a thing. I will monitor those websites, so if people are having issues, I will try to fix them. Obviously I'm not gonna be adding like full support for this game because I'm moving on to the second game, but I do want to make sure that people can at least play it and experience it, and I'm excited to hear people's feedback. But I think I'm going to do a bit of a retrospective video on this, the first game I did here, because this is the first game I've created, the first game I've released, and I did it in a month. So I'm going to do a video that's basically just like, I made a game in a month, this was my experience. So that should be coming within the next few weeks as well, in between the other devlogs that I have on the next game. I'm about to win here, didn't even take any damage, so we will leave it on that note. I'm really excited to see what you guys think. Feel free to leave me YouTube comments letting me know, leave comments on those websites, or follow me over on Twitter. I'll put that link down in the description as well. You can tweet me and let me know what you think of this. Thank you guys for watching.